Fight Club.
Hey there, it's Ben Housel here, and here in this tutorial we're going to have a look at two things. So we're going to be having a look at how we create this kind of quick transition from one clip to another, and we're going to look at it in two different ways. The first is for those who don't have the budget or can't afford to buy transitions. We're going to have a quick look at how you can create this effect using some simple scale adjustments and some keyframes. And then we're going to have a review of the awesome CineFlare Smooth that is available from FxFactory, who are kindly sponsoring this video, and basically have a look at how this can kind of take these transitions to the next level. So not only applying it to individual clips, but also applying it to layered clips, looking at some of the motion blur that is available for those transitions and how we can layer these things up on the timeline in Final Cut Pro, either to use it as transitions or as parts of an effect within a video clip itself. So let's dive in and have a look at how we create these very cool transitions in Final Cut Pro 10, either without plugins, but then also with the CineFlare Smooth plugin available from FxFactory. So basically, we're going to have a look at how we do this with keyframes first of all. And this is a really simple trick that a lot of editors have been using on YouTube, online for a long time. And essentially what we're doing is making a very small size adjustment to our clip, and then a very kind of quick movement at the end of one clip and the beginning of the next clip. So we're going to click on this first clip, and basically we're going to come to the end of this clip and then move back 2 or 3 frames. Okay, so basically we're moving just a few frames back into the end of that clip, and then we're going to grab our transform controls here and just increase the size of this clip. We don't want to increase it too much, we don't want to distort it too much, but basically somewhere around 110% of that clip size, which we can see up in the inspector, will be great. And we can then just drag this clip left or right. We just want to make sure that the movement that we do in the end of this clip kind of matches up with the direction of the movement in the beginning of the next clip. So once we've moved that and increased the scale, we're going to add a keyframe, and then we're going to move to the end of the clip, and I just use the down cursor to do that, and then the left cursor once just to move to the last frame of this clip. So now I can drag this clip. So this clip is now going to be moving in from the left to the right. So with this next clip, we want to do exactly the same thing. So basically, I'm going to click at the beginning of this clip this time, add a keyframe, increase the scale to 110% or thereabouts, and then basically I want to move this in the same direction to the left, and then move 2 or 3 frames ahead, and then we'll drag this to the right. And essentially what's going to happen now when we play this back is we're going to get that nice little bit of movement between those two clips, which just tricks the eye into feeling like it's a smooth transition. So basically, without trimming anything off the end of these clips, we can create this type of transition. We can also do the same thing with a little bit of rotation as well. So if we come to the end of this clip, move back a few frames, we'll select the end of this clip, add a keyframe, and actually we've already increased the size of this, but I'm going to actually increase it a little bit more here, and then I'm going to rotate it, and we just want to make sure that at the edges we don't kind of cut any edges off. So basically I'm going to rotate this here, and then I'm going to come to the end of the clip, and then I'm going to rotate it all the other way. So this clip is moving around clockwise. So up to the end of this clip, we have a little bit of kind of rotation adjustment, which kind of works because of this moving clip and the smoke moving around, all that kind of stuff. And at the end, we have this little whip rotation, which will basically move over a few frames. And we just want to match those few frames of rotation in the next clip. So I'm going to come and click on this Drone City clip. We'll add a keyframe. We'll increase the scale. Whoops, sometimes that happens. We'll increase the scale there a little bit. And then we want to move clockwise with this as well. So we're going to go counterclockwise first, and then come ahead 2 or 3 frames, and then move this clip clockwise. So basically, at the beginning of this clip now, we're going to get this transition. Okay, and you can see that just quick whip of those movements at the end of those clips just means it tricks the eye into following that movement and giving this kind of cool idea of the transition. Now, the thing with these transitions is that they do require a bit of keyframing. You have to think about the clips and stuff that you're using basically from clip to clip. There's one last one we'll have a look at here, and that is a zoom. So if well, sometimes this happens, my keyframes disappear. I'm just going to click my motion controls to bring them back. And this time, we're going to add a keyframe, come to the end of the clip, and I'll zoom out this time to 50% just so I can see the edges. And I'm going to increase the scale a bit more this time. So basically, what I want to do here at the beginning of this next clip is add a keyframe. And this time I'm going to leave the scale as is, and then I'm just going to come forward 1, 2, 3 frames and increase the scale here. So basically we've got an increase of scale at the end of this one clip, and then an increase in scale at the beginning of the next clip. But it's also because of that quick movement towards the camera, it's kind of helping trick our eye that this is a kind of smooth transition. Okay, so we've got a few things going on there that are helping that transition happen. So whenever we're thinking about things on screen and kind of making edits, we're always thinking about that kind of movement. Now, if we have a look at the smooth transition, we'll see that we've got a kind of whole range of different options for creating these kinds of effects. So basically, I am going to come ahead in time a little bit. We've got some other clips here. So we've got this tunnel and this girl, and we're going to come into our type tools here, and strangely, the CineFlare screen's smooth transitions or kind of movements are in our titles, and that's basically because they act on the layer below, and we'll see why that's really important in a few moments when we start dealing with more layers. But basically, if we scroll up some of these basic options here, we have 2 options for both clips. So we have a begin and an end. So this is basically that same kind of movement that we were looking at in the previous example, where we're moving to the right. Okay, so we add the begin on the first clip and the end on the other clip, and then basically that's all we do, just add those above, play it through, and it will slide to the next clip. So you can see we kind of get this nice smooth slide of those 2 clips. The nice thing about this is we don't need to redo it for the next transition. We can just paste these on there. So I just copied them. I can just then line them up with the transition, and there's no keyframing to do. It's kind of super quick to add them, and you can see that for some transitions it works better than others. So this one here, we've got like the little doubling up of the tunnel is almost a little bit too much. I think I want to delete that and actually get that tunnel to spin. So this is another nice thing about the smooth transitions, is that we can basically mix and match the beginnings and ends of different clips. So I'm going to have a spin at the beginning of this one, and then that move into the next clip. So you can see we kind of get a nice spin there. And if let's take the transform controls off here, and we'll get this to fit. Basically, we can change the amount by which it's spinning. So we can have less spin or more spin. Okay. So basically here now, we get a kind of ton more spin before we move into the next clip. But you can see that rotation clockwise moving into the next clip works really nicely. So it's super easy to add, and if we kind of get a combination of different transitions that we like, we can hold down the option key, drag them to another edit, and see how they work. Okay, so really easy to kind of duplicate from clip to clip. We also have down at the bottom here some motion blur. So I'm going to add motion blur 2 to this one. Now you definitely don't want to stack these motion blurs. I have crashed my computer playing with these, and there is a little warning up in the motion blur actually that says don't cross the beams or don't stack the motion blurs, basically because it creates too much kind of render madness. So if we play this through, we just get a little bit of motion blur on there, or a lot of motion blur, and we can use Alt and the right square bracket to trim that down. So let's play this through. So again, we're just kind of getting some nice motion blur in there now, which is helping that transition. So super nice, super smooth. So let's move ahead here in time now. So we've kind of had a little bit of a play with these transitions on single layers. Now we're going to have a look at how these work on multiple layers. So I'm going to set these layers up a bit more differently. So I'm just going to select all these top layers here and tap the V key to disable them. Once these are disabled, I'm just going to work on this layer below, and I'm going to add a little bit of color correction to it so we can use some different effects here. So basically here we're going to go to the exposure tab under the color correction for this color board and drop down our blacks, increase our whites, and we're just basically trying to get like a real sharp contrast for this particular image. So somewhere around here will be good. So basically a nice super contrasty image, and then we'll also drop down the saturation of that image as well. So we've got a complete kind of black and white image there, and we can kind of play around with the exposure a bit more, and then once we add some effects on the layers above, we can see what's going to work best. So I'm going to select these 4 clips, tap the V key again to re-enable them, and then we're going to come up to the video properties. I'm just going to change the blend mode here to lighten. So basically we're going to create this sort of double exposure effect on here. And then what's really cool here is that with this double exposure effect, once that's set up, when we add the smooth transition, I'll just grab these 2 to start with, I'll just duplicate these up. When we add those to the top layer, it's going to affect both layers below, which I think is super cool. So basically, rather than worrying about whether we've got enough media in the overlapping parts of the clips and what clips are below there, we're essentially going to get, we'll take the transform properties off there, this movement of both layers in one go. So you can see it's moving both those layers at the same time, which I think is super cool. And then we've got some other kind of different travels and stuff that we've got here. So these movements, basically either long travels or short travels, will give you different effects. And we can also as well add those motion blurs to these clips too. Again, trimming down with the right square bracket, and then we can just duplicate these motion blurs on the timeline. So we'll play this back through, and you can see with the motion blur we just get that kind of nice real whiz of those transitions there. I might just grab my surfer here. I kind of have an issue up at the top here, so I'm just going to come to my masks down here, grab a shape mask, just drop this over here, and I'm just going to basically add a little bit of transition up to the top so we don't have that kind of sharp line from where I moved the clip before. So let's deselect the shape mask. So basically you can see really easy to kind of move things around. It also means that when you're playing with the timing of these clips at the beginning and end with the transitions, whereas when you have keyframes you have to kind of worry about how you're slipping the clip, so finding the right point for the beginning and the end of the clip. If we tap T and want to move the beginning and end of the clip, so let's come back. So at the beginning he's going to kind of do this bigger swing, but you can see we're slipping the clip within that space using the trim tool. So the trim tool is here, and we'll go back to the select tool now. And basically we've trimmed that and kind of found the right part of that clip to be there as well. And maybe we'll drop this one down a little bit too, so we see his face a bit more in the clip. So if we drop this down here, we'll add a shape mask in here as well. So we're kind of layering up a few different things. Take off those transform controls, and then we can kind of blend this a bit more with that top part of the image. So just get this, so we still get that same idea in there, but we see a bit more of his face, and then at the end that works nicely. So these are a few of the things that I really like about this smooth transition, this ability to kind of really fluidly add them to your edit, not to worry too much about the layers and stuff that are in place there. So it makes the animation super easy. So one other thing that we've got in here as well with this is we can use these as transitions, but we can also use them as kind of pumps within our video as well. So if we grab one of these smooth transitions, let's grab this up arrow, so the basic up arrow, okay, And I'm going to duplicate this a few times. So basically here it's moving up, and this is quite slow at the moment, but if we select all of these and then do Command and G, group them together, I'm going to use Control and D to bring up the duration of all these smooth transitions, and then we're just going to make them 5 frames long, so super short, and then I'll duplicate them one more time so we've got kind of 8 of them there. So you can see we get that nice flicker of those clips, and then we can kind of mix and match with up and down options as well. So we'll just make this 4 frames long, so a little bit shorter. I'm going to drop this in here a little bit. So I'm just holding down the Alt key to duplicate and kind of mixing in some different directions in there. Play this through. Okay, so you can see we can kind of get that nice little jumpiness of the clip in there. And we can also put in some little bits of rotation as well. So basically if we grab a rotation, we'll drop that in there, shorten it down so it's just a few frames long. And I'll duplicate this in there too, a couple of times. So you can see we can use the transitions here for kind of moving between different frames. Or we can kind of use it as an effect in part of a video, and obviously once you put the music in there and stuff, it just looks super cool as well. So we'll add the motion blur above here as well. If I play this through now, you can see we've got that motion blur in there, the kind of different movements there are working really nicely, and once the dubstep or techno music or whatever is on there, it's going to sound super cool. So you can see how we've got things set up in this edit, and if we can imagine doing this all with keyframes, then we can definitely do it. We can definitely kind of get that movement going. But once we want to make changes or kind of make little adjustments or copy sections of movement from one spot to another, with the keyframes it gets a little bit tricky to get that just right, especially kind of pasting keyframes at different points within a clip. So if you want to keep your edit fluid and you want to kind of be moving things around and creating these kind of very cool sort of layered transitions where we have layers of these clips really kind of working together, and with the blend modes and stuff like that, that works really nicely, then definitely the CineFlare Smooth plugin is a super cool one to check out. And all the plugins on FxFactory, you can kind of try them out for free. So definitely check it out, try it on your edits, see how it works and see how it kind of feels to use it. But it's definitely one that I got super excited about testing out and kind of giving a run through when I got the opportunity. So if you enjoy these tutorials, then please do hit the subscribe button and the notifications button and all that kind of fun stuff. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you on the next tutorial.